It began like any other Friday. The sun dipped beneath the tree line in Pine Hollow, a town so small you could drive through it in 6 minutes flat. Locals here didn't lock their doors. Neighbors borrowed sugar without knocking. And nothing, absolutely nothing, ever happened until it did. At precisely 5:42 p.m., 27-year-old Emily Hartwell was seen leaving the Pine Hollow Public Library, her canvas bag swinging at her side. She smiled at a passing couple, waved to the librarian locking up behind her, and turned the corner onto East Ridge Road. That was the last time anyone saw her. There was no struggle, no screams, no dropped bag, just silence. When Emily didn't show up for dinner with her fiancé, Jake, alarms weren't immediately raised. She was a grown woman, after all, independent. Maybe she'd just lost track of time. But by 9 p.m., her phone went straight to voicemail. By midnight, Jake had called every hospital within a 50-mile radius. And by morning, the entire town of Pine Hollow was looking for her. But here's where it gets strange. Not a single camera along East Ridge Road caught her passing. One surveillance feed that usually captured the street was mysteriously corrupted. The timestamps were blank. And the town's only traffic cam? Offline for scheduled maintenance. Coincidence or design? The FBI would later call it the most baffling disappearance they'd ever encountered. But back then, no one realized what they were dealing with. Because Emily Hartwell didn't just disappear. She was erased. And someone very close wanted it that way. The Pine Hollow Library was the last confirmed place Emily Hartwell had been seen. A place of silence and stories, now turned into a crime scene. Detectives combed through security footage from inside the building. Every hallway, every corner. Emily left at 5:42 p.m., but something about the footage bothered Agent Dana Forrester, the FBI's lead on the case. Emily never checked out a book, never visited her usual study nook. She entered, walked past the shelves, and paused briefly in the nonfiction aisle, then stood there, still, for 6 minutes, staring at nothing. The librarian, Mrs. Carpenter, swore Emily looked off, dazed, like she'd forgotten why she was there. She didn't speak to anyone, didn't take out her phone, and when she walked out, it was like she had no idea where she was going. Just 1 minute later, the surveillance feed outside went dark. Too perfect, too precise, almost like she was being watched and manipulated. Jake Monroe was the kind of man mothers wanted their daughters to marry. Clean-cut, calm, and unfailingly polite. He was also the first person questioned by local police. He claimed Emily was supposed to meet him at 6:30 p.m. for dinner. He waited at the restaurant until 7:15. No calls, no messages. Then he drove straight to her apartment. But the apartment was untouched. Lights off, mail unopened. Jake passed the polygraph with flying colors. Still, Agent Forrester couldn't shake the feeling something was off. Jake's grief felt rehearsed, too measured, too calm. When asked if Emily had any enemies, he said no. But Emily's best friend would say otherwise. Her name was Brianna Cross, Emily's childhood best friend, college roommate, maid of honor. She hadn't spoken to Emily in nearly 2 weeks. Why? That's what Agent Forrester wanted to know. When she reached out to Brianna, the call rang 4 times before cutting to voicemail. A second call straight to voicemail. The next day, Brianna's landlord reported her hadn't seen her in days. Her apartment was locked from the inside. Dishes in the sink. Phone on the counter. She was gone. Just like Emily. 2 women. Same friend circle. Vanished without a trace. The difference? Brianna had left something behind. A journal. And inside it, scribbled in frantic handwriting, were 3 words. They're watching us. The journal wasn't a diary. It was a log. Times. Dates. Notes about people following her. Cars that parked across the street. Lights that flickered at odd hours. Most would call it paranoia. But one entry, dated a week before Emily vanished, changed everything. Emily told me she thinks someone broke into her apartment while she was at work. Nothing taken. Just moved. They want her to know. She says she's going to the police. I told her not to. Emily never filed a police report, not officially, but Agent Forrester found something in the FBI's digital vault, a flagged search query. Emily Hartwell had typed, "How to report a stalker without alerting them." 2 days before she disappeared, the neighbors remembered him, a tall man in a black hoodie, always walking his dog at the same time every night, right past Emily's apartment. No one knew his name. He didn't speak, didn't make eye contact, just walked. After Emily vanished, so did he. No more nightly walks, no more dog. Agent Forrester pulled footage from the nearest ATM, half a block away, at 5:51 p.m., 9 minutes after Emily was last seen. There he was, leaning against the wall, smoking, watching, and just barely visible behind him, a figure matching Emily's build, being led into a dark sedan. The license plate was covered, but the logo on the back? It wasn't police. It wasn't FBI. It was private, and it belonged to a company with a buried past. The logo belonged to a defunct security firm, Orion Strategies. A private intelligence contractor shut down in 2012 for ethical violations, including illegal surveillance and experimental behavioral conditioning on unaware civilians. Officially, the company no longer existed, but Agent Forrester traced the sedan to a shell company headquartered in DC, with 0 listed employees, a disconnected number, and a locked building. Inside the shell company's public filings, one strange document, a non-disclosure agreement signed by a name she didn't expect to see, Jake Monroe, Emily's fiancé. Emily wasn't just a librarian. That's what her coworkers thought. That's what her family believed. But behind the scenes, she was freelance translating classified documents for government contractors. She had 3 burner phones, 2 encrypted laptops, and 1 offline hard drive hidden in her air vent. Inside the drive, emails, dozens of them. Most were encoded, but a few were readable. One stood out. "They're using people, Emily, not just watching, conditioning them. I have proof. But if you go public, they'll come for you too." Signed only D. Cross, Brianna's older brother, declared missing in 2015. Another ghost in the system. The FBI had overlooked the town's dusty archive room, a relic from the Cold War days, left untouched in the basement of Town Hall. Agent Forrester found it by accident. Inside were dozens of files stamped with the same red logo as Orion Strategies, filed under innocuous labels: Water Commission, Historic Building Survey, Weather Anomalies. Each one was fake, but buried in the pages were photos, grainy, black and white stills, of local residents being watched, followed, and recorded. Some were deceased, others long moved away. One photo, dated 2004, showed a young girl stepping off a school bus. It was Emily. Emily had lived in Pine Hollow her entire life, or so everyone thought, but birth records showed something odd. She wasn't registered in the town until 1998, when she was already 1 year old. No hospital record, no social security application until 2006. It was as if she'd been dropped into existence. Agent Forrester ordered a forensic genealogical search. What came back shook her to the core. Emily Hartwell didn't match any living relative in the country. Her DNA was synthetic. Agent Forrester's phone began acting strange. Glitches, reboots, calls cutting out. Then the messages began. Anonymous texts with no number, all repeating the same line. "Stop digging. She was never yours to find." She reported the harassment to the Bureau. 3 days later, she was reassigned. No warning, no appeal. Her case files were locked. And the official story? Emily Hartwell had run away voluntarily. No foul play. Case closed. But Forrester knew the truth. And she wasn't done. Not by a long shot. Agent Dana Forrester didn't take her reassignment quietly. She went rogue. With her own funds and fake credentials, she traced a private transport flight chartered 2 days after Emily's disappearance, departing from a private airstrip just outside Pine Hollow. Its destination, a remote mountain compound in Wyoming, registered to yet another Orion shell company. What she found wasn't a cabin or bunker. It was a facility. Steel doors, no signage, no windows, and inside, a network of underground rooms, guarded but silent, like a hospital, a lab, and a prison all at once. There were no people in sight, but in the observation room, one of the surveillance monitors blinked to life, and on it, Emily Hartwell, pale, expressionless, hooked to a machine, eyes open, but blank. Forrester copied what she could. Thumb drives, photos, security logs. The records showed Emily wasn't the only one. There were 8 others. Each had disappeared under strange, unsolved circumstances across the last decade. Each had no living family. Each had worked at some point with or near sensitive government programs. But the most disturbing part? The facility's codename was Project Mercury, a psychological experiment designed to reformat high-intellect civilians for long-term compliance, brainwashing, conditioning, breaking people down to build them up again. And Emily? She wasn't a target by mistake. She had uncovered it. She was trying to blow the whistle. They silenced her first. Forrester sent the files to every journalist she knew. Encrypted, time-released, backed up threefold. And then she waited. Silence. Days passed. Until one night, she turned on the television and saw a breaking news banner. FBI raids abandoned facility in Wyoming linked to missing persons cases. The cover-up had cracked. Anonymous insiders confirmed that the footage had been leaked by a source within the Bureau. Dozens of names were being investigated. Arrests imminent. Families of the missing were being contacted. But no mention of Emily. Not her name. Not her photo. It was as if she were still invisible. Still unspoken. 2 weeks later, Forrester checked into a motel under a fake name, keeping a low profile. She didn't expect the knock at her door at 2:17 a.m., and she didn't expect to open it and see Emily. Not the pale, blank-faced figure she'd seen on surveillance. This Emily was awake, aware, but different. Her eyes were sharp, too sharp. Her voice monotone, clipped. Her smile didn't touch her eyes. She said one thing: "They let me go, but they said if I talk, they'll come for you next." Then she handed Forrester a flash drive and disappeared into the night. The flash drive contained a final video. Emily sitting in a white room, strapped to a chair. A date in the corner. 6 days after her disappearance. She's crying, whispering, "They said if I don't forget, they'll make me someone else. They already did it to Bree. I saw her. She didn't remember me. She just smiled." Her voice shakes. "They're erasing us and replacing us. We look the same, but we're not." Static. Then the video ends. The screen goes black, and one final message flashes on screen, briefly, almost subliminally. "You are not watching. You are being watched." Justice was served, but only the justice that could be seen. Headlines were written. Facilities were shut down. People were arrested. But what about the ones who disappeared and never came back? What about the Emilys still walking around, wearing the same face, but not the same soul? As the story ends, viewers are left with a chilling question. What if the people we love aren't who we remember, but who they've been made to be? And somewhere, in the silence of a dark room, another screen flickers on. A new name, a new face, another ghost about to vanish. Stay tuned for more chilling cases on Cold Case Chronicles, where the truth is always darker than fiction. If you haven't already, make sure you're subscribed to Cold Case Chronicles. We dive deeper into the most chilling, unsolved mysteries, and together, we uncover what was left behind. Like, share, and leave a comment below. We want to hear your thoughts. Stay vigilant. Stay curious. The truth never rests.